At Dad's will reading, my siblings celebrated getting millions each while I got $500. Then the Executor revealed, the real estate portfolio worth $200 million goes entirely to her. Your one click helps more than you know. Subscribe and drop a comment saying where you're watching from. Let's see how far this story goes. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was scrubbing dried oatmeal off my kitchen counter. Ms. Bennett? This is Gerald Hopkins from Hopkins & Associates. I'm calling regarding your father's estate. My hand froze mid-wipe. Dad had been gone 3 weeks and I'd spent most of that time crying into cheap wine while my siblings, Nathan, Shayla, and Trevor, posted Instagram stories from their grief vacation in Turks and Caicos. The reading is scheduled for Friday at 2 o'clock. Your presence is required. Required. Not requested. I hadn't been required for anything family-related in years. I stared at my reflection in the microwave door. At 32 I looked older than I should. Night shifts at County General did that. My scrubs hung loose. I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose. I'll be there, I said, though every cell in my body screamed to refuse. Dad and I hadn't spoken in 4 years. Not since I refused to co-sign Nathan's third failed business venture and got labeled the selfish one. Never mind that I was drowning in student loans from nursing school. Never mind that Nathan had already burned through $200,000 of Dad's money. I became the villain for saying no. Good. The office is downtown 7th and Main. Don't be late, Ms. Bennett. He hung up before I could ask what I should expect. I sat down hard on my kitchen stool, my heart hammering. Friday. 3 days away. 3 days to prepare for whatever fresh hell my family had waiting. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Dad's face the last time we spoke. It was November 2020, right before Thanksgiving. I'd stopped by his penthouse, the one overlooking Lake Michigan that he'd bought after selling his first company. He was on the balcony, smoking a cigar despite his doctor's orders. Daddy, I need to talk to you, I'd started. If this is about Nathan again, save it, Elvira. That boy needs family support, not judgment. His words hit like a slap. I'd rehearsed what to say, how to explain that enabling wasn't helping. But he'd already made up his mind. You know what your problem is? You're just like your mother. Calculating. Can't see past your own needs. He always threw her in my face. She'd left when I was 8, and somehow I'd inherited all her sins in his eyes. That's not fair, I'd whispered. He turned to me then, his eyes hard. You want fair. Fair is family sticking together. Fair is helping your brother when he's down. But you'd rather count pennies than have a heart. I'd left without another word. For years. 4 years of birthdays, Christmases, his cancer diagnosis. All experienced through Nathan's Facebook updates. I'd sent flowers to the funeral. They were refused. Returned to sender with a note in Shayla's handwriting. From people who cared. Now I was being summoned to his will reading and I couldn't figure out why. Maybe to publicly disinherit me. That seemed like Nathan's style. Thursday night, I stood in front of my closet trying to find something appropriate. My wardrobe consisted mostly of scrubs, yoga pants, and the occasional sundress. Nothing said, I'm here for my dead father's will reading, even though he hated me. I settled on black slacks and a cream blouse. Professional but not trying too hard. My neighbor Mrs. Wayne knocked around 8. She was 73, had lived next door for 6 years, and was more family than my blood relatives. You eating? She asked, holding a container of her famous dumplings. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. Come on, baby girl. You can't face those vultures on an empty stomach. We sat at my tiny kitchen table and I told her everything. How Dad had frozen me out. How Nathan had stolen my identity once. Ran up $12,000 in credit card debt before I caught him. How Shayla had started the rumor at Dad's 60th birthday that I was a drug addict because I'd lost weight from stress. And Trevor? Mrs. Wayne asked. Trevor was the youngest, the baby boy who could do no wrong. Trevor just goes along with whatever they say. He's not mean, just weak. Mrs. Wayne squeezed my hand. Listen to me. Tomorrow you walk in there with your head high. You don't owe them nothing. Not explanations, not apologies, nothing. But that was easier said than done. These were people who knew exactly where to stick the knife. The law office was everything I expected. Mahogany and marble, with a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of Vogue. Elvira Bennett, I said. She smiled professionally. 4th floor, conference room B. Mr. Hopkins is expecting you. The elevator ride felt like descending into hell. When the doors opened, I heard them before I saw them. Shayla's laugh, loud and performative. I'm thinking Bali. Maybe Morocco. Somewhere exotic for the mourning period. Nathan's voice followed. Man, I'm buying that Maserati tomorrow. Black on black. Dad would have wanted that. I rounded the corner and there they were. Nathan at 35, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Shayla at 34, dripping in Cartier that Dad had bought her. Trevor at 28, looking uncomfortable in clothes that actually fit him for once. They stopped talking when they saw me. Well, Nathan drawled. Look who decided to show up. Come to see what you're not getting. Shayla laughed, that tinkling, cruel sound I remembered from childhood. Girl, I love your outfit. Very budget. I felt the old familiar shame trying to creep up. But I thought of Mrs. Wayne's words. Head high. Nathan. Shayla. Trevor. I nodded at each of them. Trevor looked away. Before anyone could say more, the conference room door opened. The Bennett family. Please come in. Gerald Hopkins was 60-something with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Please sit. The conference room was huge with windows overlooking the city. We sat on opposite sides of a gleaming table. Me alone on one side. The three of them clustered together like they were afraid I'd contaminate them. Mr. Hopkins opened a leather folder. First, let me express my condolences. Edward Bennett was a remarkable man. Nathan nodded solemnly. He really was. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Remarkable. Right. Remarkable at playing favorites. Remarkable at emotional manipulation. Before we begin, Mr. Hopkins continued, I need to explain that Edward updated his will 7 months ago. This is not the document many of you might be expecting. Something flickered across Nathan's face. Uncertainty? Mr. Hopkins began reading. To my son Nathan Bennett I leave $3 million. Nathan literally pumped his fist. Yes. Thank you, Pops. Till was next. To my daughter Shayla Bennett I leave $3 million. She squealed, actually squealed, and grabbed Nathan's arm. We're rich. Oh my God. Trevor got the same. $3 million. He looked stunned, like he couldn't quite believe it. Then Mr. Hopkins looked at me. The room went quiet. To my daughter Elvira Bennett I leave $500. The silence was deafening. Then Nathan started laughing. 500? Man, that's perfect. That's what you get for turning your back on family. Shayla finished, her voice dripping with satisfaction. She turned to me, eyes glittering. How does it feel, Elvira? To know that even in death, Daddy knew what you were worth. $500. The number echoed in my head. I'd worked double shifts, put myself through nursing school, paid every single bill on time, and I was worth $500 to the man who'd made tens of millions. Nathan was recording on his phone now. This is going to be great content. The daughter who got what she deserved. I wanted to cry. Wanted to scream. Wanted to ask Mr. Hopkins if there was a mistake. but I wouldn't give them the satisfaction. I sat there, spine straight, face blank. Are you finished? Mr. Hopkins's voice cut through their celebration like a blade. His tone had changed. Gone was the professional sympathy. Now he sounded almost angry. Because we're not done here. Not even close. Nathan lowered his phone. What do you mean? You read the will. I read part of the will, Mr. Hopkins corrected. The part your father wanted read first. Edward was very specific about the order. He pulled out another document, this one much thicker. Now we get to the real estate portfolio. My siblings exchanged confused glances. Real estate? Trevor asked. Dad didn't have, your father, Mr. Hopkins interrupted, had an extensive real estate portfolio. Properties across 12 states. Commercial buildings, residential complexes, retail spaces. The room temperature seemed to drop. Mr. Hopkins looked directly at me, and for the first time since I'd entered, he smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of someone about to deliver justice. The portfolio, currently valued at approximately $203 million, goes in its entirety to Elvira Monique Bennett. I heard the words, understood them individually, but together they made no sense. What? Shayla's voice went shrill. That's impossible. There's no way. I assure you, Ms. Bennett, it's very possible. And very real. Mr. Hopkins slid a bound document across the table to me. These are the property deeds, financial statements, and management contracts. Everything has been transferred to your name as of this morning. My hands shook as I opened the folder. Pages and pages of addresses. Buildings I'd never heard of. Bank statements with numbers that seemed fake. 200 million. Plus 3. This is bullshit. Nathan slammed his hand on the table. He wouldn't do this. He loved us. He hated her. Mr. Hopkins's expression hardened. Your father loved all of his children, Mr. Bennett. But love and trust are different things. And he didn't trust you with this. Why? The word came out broken. I wasn't asking about the money. I was asking why the years of silence, the coldness, the rejection. If he'd planned this all along. Mr. Hopkins pulled out a letter. He left this for you, Miss Bennett. Perhaps it will explain. My hands trembled as I took the envelope. It was heavy, expensive paper. My name written in Dad's bold handwriting. I could feel my siblings' eyes burning into me as I opened it. The letter was dated 8 months ago, right after his cancer diagnosis. My Elvira, it began, and I had to stop, blinking back tears. He hadn't called me that since I was little. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've just learned that you're a very wealthy woman. I imagine your brother and sisters are losing their minds right now. Good. Let me explain why I did this. For 4 years I've watched you from a distance. I hired a private investigator the week after our fight. I needed to know if I was wrong about you. The words blurred. He'd been watching me? I learned everything. How Nathan stole your identity and you paid off the debt yourself rather than press charges. How Shayla spread vicious rumors and you never retaliated. How Trevor asked you for money 3 times and you sent it even after how we treated you. I learned that you work 60-hour weeks to pay off loans you only have because I refused to help you. Because I was punishing you for being strong. A sob caught in my throat. Your mother left because I was a coward who chose my business over my family. I blamed her, then I blamed you because you reminded me of her strength. I was wrong, baby girl. So wrong. I couldn't read through the tears now. Mr. Hopkins's voice was gentle. Shall I? Mr. Hopkins continued reading. Nathan has gone through $4 million of my money in 10 years. Shayla spent $3 million on shopping and fake friends. Trevor's a follower who'll blow his $3 million in 5 years. But you, Elvira, You turned yourself into someone who didn't need me. That hurt. It also made me prouder than anything else in my life. So here's what I'm doing. I'm giving them enough money to hang themselves with. And I'm giving you the empire I built. Nathan was white-faced. This is insane. He was senile. We can contest this. Mr. Hopkins's smile was razor-sharp. Your father anticipated that. He underwent extensive psychiatric evaluation. 2 independent doctors certified his sound mind. I have video of him signing these documents, clearly stating his intentions. You'll lose. But why the $500? I whispered. Why humiliate me first? Mr. Hopkins consulted the letter. He writes, I give Nathan, Shayla, and Trevor exactly what they gave you, a public performance of their character. I give you $500 because that's what you sent Trevor last Christmas when you only had $600 in your account. I remembered. The room spun. Dad had known. About all of it. Every sacrifice, every slight, every moment I'd chosen to be the bigger person. There's more, Mr. Hopkins said. Edward set up a trust that releases detailed information about certain financial activities. What financial activities? Shayla's voice was barely a whisper. Mr. Hopkins pulled out another folder, this one marked with red tabs. Your father spent the last 8 months documenting everything. Nathan, you told him you needed $200,000 for a tech startup last year. You actually used it to pay gambling debts. Your father has the casino statements. Nathan's face went purple. He can't prove. He can. He did. Mr. Hopkins turned to Shayla. You told your father you needed $150,000 for a down payment on a house. You spent it on designer clothes and bottles at clubs. The receipts are itemized. Shayla opened her mouth but nothing came out. And Trevor, you borrowed $80,000 for business school. You dropped out after 3 weeks and used the money for a party lifestyle. Your father hired someone to audit all of you. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every time you took advantage of his love. Trevor looked like he might throw up. Why? Nathan's voice cracked. If he knew, why give us anything? For the first time, Mr. Hopkins's expression softened slightly. Because he was your father. He loved you despite knowing exactly who you were. The $3 million each. It's a test. He's betting you'll waste it in 5 years. If you do, Elvira gets that too. If you prove him wrong, you keep it. That's not fair. Shayla shouted. She gets $200 million and we get tested? Life isn't fair, Ms. Bennett. Your father learned that. Apparently you haven't. Mr. Hopkins wasn't done. There are conditions to Elvira's inheritance as well. She cannot give any of you money. She cannot bail you out, loan you funds, or help you financially in any way for the next 10 years. If she does, everything goes to charity. I looked up sharply. Dad had thought of everything. He knew I'd feel guilty. Knew I might try to help them anyway. That's manipulation. Nathan roared. It's control, Mr. Hopkins agreed calmly. Control your father earned through building an empire while you 3 spent his money. Elvira, your father has one request. He asks that you finish reading his letter in private. The rest concerns only you. He handed me several more pages. My siblings sat in stunned silence. The shock on their faces would have been funny if my heart wasn't breaking. There's one final matter, Mr. Hopkins said. Edward left video messages for each of you. You're not required to watch them, but they're available. He gestured to a laptop on the side table. I'll watch it, Trevor said quietly. He looked at me for the first time since the reading began. Elvira, I don't. My voice came out harder than I intended. Not now. Not here. He nodded, looking down at his hands. Nathan stood abruptly. This isn't over. We'll fight this. You'll You'll lose, I said. My voice was steady now. Strong. And even if you won, you'd just waste it anyway. We both know that. They left. Nathan storming out, Shayla in tears, Trevor looking back once before following. I sat alone in the conference room with Mr. Hopkins, staring at the documents that represented my father's life work. He was planning this for months, Mr. Hopkins said softly. He came in every week updating details, making sure everything was airtight. He talked about you constantly. He didn't call me once in 4 years. My voice cracked. He wanted to. Picked up the phone dozens of times. But he said you deserved better than him crawling back just because he was dying. He wanted to make it right through action, not words. I looked at the letter, at the pages I hadn't read yet. Can I have a moment? Take all the time you need. I'll be in my office when you're ready to discuss next steps. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I opened the letter with shaking hands. Elvira, by now you know about the money. But that's not why I'm writing. I'm writing to say I'm sorry. Sorry for choosing pride over love. Sorry for letting your siblings poison me against you. Sorry for not being the father you deserved. You turned out exactly like your mother. Strong, independent, unwilling to compromise yourself for anyone. I hated that because it reminded me of what I'd lost. But you know what? He was right to leave. And you were right to stand your ground. The tears came then, hot and fast, years of pain pouring out. 3 months later, I stood in Dad's penthouse. My penthouse now. I'd quit my job at County General, not because I didn't love nursing, but because I'd started a foundation. The Elvira Bennett Healthcare Initiative, providing scholarships for nursing students from low-income families. Students like I'd been. Mrs. Wayne was there, along with the foundation's new board members. To Edward, I said, raising a glass, who taught me that love isn't always soft and sometimes the hardest gifts are the ones that force us to grow. My phone buzzed. Trevor. He'd reached out twice since the reading, apologizing, asking if we could talk. Nathan and Shayla had gone silent. Word through the family grapevine said Nathan was already down $1 million. Shayla had bought a house she couldn't afford to maintain. I'd thought about them every day. Worried. Felt guilty. Then I'd reread Dad's letter, the final pages. Don't save them, Elvira. I tried for 30 years. Some people only learn through consequences. Let them fall. It's not cruel, it's necessary. But you fly, baby girl. You take this and you build something beautiful. Make me proud. I looked out over the lake at the city lights reflecting on the water. My phone buzzed again. Trevor. This time I answered. Hello. Elvira. I know I don't deserve. You're right. You don't. But I'm willing to have coffee. Just coffee. No money, no favors. Just conversation. Silence. Then, thank you. That's more than it's more than you deserve, I agreed. But maybe it's what we both need. I hung up and smiled at my reflection in the window. Dad had given me more than money. He'd given me permission to choose myself. Finally, I understood. This wasn't about revenge or punishment. It was about freedom.